Hello and welcome to ETCIO. My name is Varun Agarwal, and in today's session, we have with us a very special guest from Uber. Please join me in welcoming Pallavi Rao, who is the staff software engineer at Uber. Now, Pallavi has 20 plus years of experience in the industry. She has worked with IBM Software Labs, Yahoo, and InMobi before joining Uber. She has also been the VP of an open source project called Apache Falcon. Pallavi has worked on a variety of technologies, right from distributed computing, big data platform applications, to ML platform and applications. She has been with Uber for over 2.5 years now and has worked with the AdTech engineering team and is currently with the customer obsession team. So, welcome, Pallavi.
Thank you so much, Varun.
Pallavi, just wanted to understand to begin the conversation with. I mean, it's always fascinating to hear this term customer obsession team. So, before we actually get into the question, I just want to understand what role does a customer obsession team really play?
Okay, it's a very loaded term, right? Customer obsession. But what
Right.
we really aim to do, this team really aims to do, is try and make experiences of our customers as defect-free as possible, right? So we want them to have every experience of a customer. We want it to be a great experience. And I know it's not always possible. And when it is not possible, try and resolve their issue as early as possible. So our role, the team's role, really goes beyond just customer care tech stack and just the customer care part of it. We also go beyond that to be able to collect the signals and give feedback to other teams to say that this is a bad experience, these are repeated bad experiences. Give that critical feedback to the product experience teams and say go fix it, right? And also try and see how we can improve the experiences, make it as defect free as possible.
Now, this is one of the toughest department to be in because you're constantly bombarded with complaints or queries. So, just wanted to understand what are some of the key initiatives that you are really taking care of in order to improve that customer experience?
Okay, so I'll call out one of the key initiatives that we have taken here specifically with the Bangalore engineering team, right? So, like I said, it's not just about resolving issue. When a customer comes to us with an issue, our primary job is to resolve that and address the issue. But what we don't just stop there. And what we do is we go beyond that, analyze the issue, and say what could be the root cause of this issue that caused the bad experience in the first place, right? For example, it could be a tech issue, it could be a network issue, it could be even a logistic issue. For example, the courier's bike broke down. That's something that's beyond our control. So what was the root cause of an issue, of every issue that a customer encounters, and go back and address those root causes, not just say, okay, I'm going to appease the customer and take care of the situation right away, but we actually take that input and make sure that the loop is complete by improving the product experience itself. In fact, for this initiative, what we've done is we do have a bunch of agents who analyze the issues and come up with the root cause, but we also have ML models which will look at these issues and classify them according to the root causes. It'll just say, okay, this could be the root cause for this particular issue. And based on the largest bucket of root cause that we see and the impact those are causing, we pick up and address those. At least we give the feedback to the respective stakeholders to address those issues.
That's quite interesting. Now, one of the challenges with this whole ML sometimes is while it brings in a lot of efficiencies, a lot of customers feel disconnected because that human touch sometimes go missing when you try to automate a lot of things. Now, how can you ensure that when you bring in AI, when you bring in machine learning, how do you really maintain that human touch in the customer experience? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head when you said that, right? So we do have a lot of automation. While advantage of automation is that we're able to resolve an issue quickly, we also have to keep in mind that the customer satisfaction is still our goal. That's our primary target, right? And at Uber, we are constantly on top of customer satisfaction. And we measure the customer satisfaction irrespective of whether it is through automation or through human agents. And we have a baseline and a target for each of the apps, each of the roles, and we want to make sure that we stick to it, irrespective of what the means of resolution is, right? And we collect this actively. The customer satisfaction feedback we do get after every interaction from the users, but not everyone takes it. Again, automation plays a good role here because we, again, have models that will predict a CSAT based on the interaction of a user and says, even though the user didn't tell you this, But from the interactions, what I see is here's the CSAT of this particular interaction, right? Whether it is automated or human, we don't distinguish and say, we want to make sure that our CSAT targets are met. Our customers are happy, irrespective of whether they talk to a human agent or whether they interacted with an automated flow. Right? That's that with that target in mind, we've been fairly okay with keeping them balanced between the agent and automated experiences. And also, while I say that, right, I mean, you did talk about there are ways where you sound robotic, right? The responses might sound robotic, right? So for that, we are trying to see if we can apply some sentiment analysis models, understand the user better. Can we personalize some of these messages, right? When we give a response back to this, again, whether it's human agent or a bot responding, irrespective of that, we want to make sure that we show the empathy. We want the each customer to be treated as an individual, not as a generic issue, someone as a generic bucket, right? Bucket of users. So what helps in this again is because when we train models, they are looking at a lot more data than a human can at any given point in time. So these models actually aid some of the agents to make decisions, because when an agent checks, he can only look at a certain decision points, certain data. But when you're looking at a model, it's churning a lot more data, it's looking at a lot more signals, and then giving an indication of what could be going wrong, what should be the resolution. So we do have models that would say, this is the potential resolution, but it could still be the agent who takes it eventually. But we are looking at the data and churning the data in the background to make that happen.
So practically, you're cutting down on the templates, be it in the human conversation or AI-driven conversation.
Correct.
That's excellent. Now, coming to the next point around how you actually reach out to the customer, or the customer reaches out to you. Now, omni-channel customer experience is something that everyone's aiming towards, and it's obviously extremely challenging to achieve.
Yes.
Just wanted to get some perspective from you. How are you dealing with this whole omni-channel approach, or if you've been able to really nail that?
Yeah. So yeah, it is challenging, and we are improvising as we go along. I would claim that we got it all right. So we do make, but there are a few things, right? When Uber started out, even we had very limited channels, like in-app, phone, and chat were probably the initial set of things, and of course our physical green light centers, right? As we evolved, we also started experiencing the same problem, that if a customer reached out to us via a channel of his choice, we must be able to maintain that context if we have to switch the channel. We don't want the conversation happening all over again and the customer getting frustrated saying, this is not working out, right? So we realized that early on, and we have tackled it by a bunch of software solutions and designs, if you will. And the way we have looked at it is, we are separating the communication or the channel pieces or the communication concerns out of the rest of the customer care tech stack. What that means is I should be able to plug in a new channel for any, let's say a new social media channel comes up. I should be able to quickly plug that in, and the rest of the system doesn't even notice that it's coming in from a separate channel. The rest of the systems are the data models, the entities are all designed in such a way that they have a common model. There's a common way of representing a conversation, the common way of representing an interaction. So the rest of our systems really don't worry about which channel the input came from. The communication is entirely separated out from the rest of the system. That way we can keep adding new channels. And the second part, which I talked about, was a context sharing, right? Which is very, very important. So we make sure the common context of a conversation, of an issue that a customer has had, is shared, is centrally located, and is available irrespective of the channel through which a customer comes in, right? So if he calls in, we'll know that, last time he spoke to us was about this, and it's still open. Maybe we should take it forward from there. Check with him at least if he's calling about the same thing, right? So yeah, we have basically use software solutions to make sure our customers have an omni-channel experience.
That actually cuts down a lot of frustration among the customers, because it's always the biggest pain point. Every time you text someone and the connection breaks, you have to start the whole conversation again. You call someone, you have to explain the whole issue all over again.
Yeah,
I think that's a great initiative. Just as a follow-up, I want to also understand, are you looking at ways to proactively resolve some of the customer complaints, depending, say, for example, if I go from place A to place B and the driver just takes a completely different route, it could be because I told them to do so, but often the case is that he's taking a longer route to make more money. So are there ways to actually fix those issues proactively and just alert the customer over such issues?
Yes, absolutely, right. So typically, like you rightly pointed out, customer care has been very reactive. If somebody calls in with an issue, we react. Companies react and address the issue. We are consciously moving towards proactive support. And when you talk about proactive support, in our minds, the framework is this, right? Who and when do we reach out to them? What you exactly said. What is that experience that should trigger a proactive support? Cause someone to say that, okay, I need to. This person needs help, right? So who do we target? When do we target? And even if we decide to target, what is the right channel for that user, right? And once we have said, okay, we have reached out, what is the action that we need to take? So we have kind of come, we have a bunch of use cases that we are implementing, bunch of scenarios or issue types that we're solving through this proactive support. One of the examples for it is onboarding of our drivers or couriers, right? Sometimes they're not even completely onboarded. So in which case we have these models which look at various signals and say, this person seems to be stuck for a long time. Somehow he's not able to give you the right document upload, or somehow he's not able to progress forward. So we score a user's engagement or experience and say, these are the top set of users who seem to have are in a higher need of support or in a need support. Based on that, we either start an interaction through it could even be an automated interaction. It could be a human agent who calls and says, okay, looks like I see that you're still stuck. I mean, do you need help? Those kind of things, right? So we are actively looking at it across eaters, drivers, couriers, and of course, riders too.
One of the things in customer experience is when you actually call in for a complaint, there's different version from the driver versus the passenger. Now, when a passenger is complaining about certain things, and this has come out in various cases where the version is really different. What the actual version is extremely different from what a passenger actually narrates. So in a situation like this, when you have completely diverging versions of the incident, how do you make sure that you come out as you resolve the issue in the best possible way? Does AI play a role in this somehow?
Yeah, so we do have a bunch of software solutions and tools to address such issues, right? Most of these disputes typically get routed to our human agents, so there is human discretion applied. But what we allow our agents to do is look at things objectively, make sure we have provided all widgets, all relevant information on top available to our agents to understand what really went wrong and where it went wrong, right? So making that information available at their fingertips is a first step towards saying, okay, what exactly is it? What exactly is happening, irrespective of what the driver is saying or what the rider is saying, right? So that's one of the things that we do. And another thing is also we have these capabilities where agent can have conversations, independent conversations with all of these parties separately, and then still tie it back to one common issue, that dispute that you just called out, right? That way, anyone who's looking at it can look at these two versions, look at the truth, and understand where the reality lies.
That's an excellent thing. Now, coming to another point related to this is about biases. Now, AI algorithms come with their own set of biases. Now, just identifying them sometimes becomes a big challenge. It's not that someone purposely is doing that, but how do you ensure that there are no biases in the system when it comes to any type of user?
Yeah, so I would actually say that the models will be biased, or AI models are biased only when the data itself is biased. The data that we are training it on is biased, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the way there are multiple techniques that we apply to make sure we are not looking at skewed data. When we sample the data for our training, we make sure that we sample it from different regions across different issue types, maybe from different categories. And sometimes it even requires that we have different models per country, because of behavior, if I try to club everything, like you said, the biases come in, right? But if I'm saying I'm doing a model per country, that probably is tuned for that country, right? And there are other ML techniques that we apply by data transformation, removing outliers, right? And also trying to see that if there are class imbalances, right? Making sure we sample the right set of data so that our models train on the right data, and they remove the biases that are inherent in the data itself, right? So even before we train, we want to make sure the data is clean and consumable by our ML models. And in spite of that, and we retrain our models very frequently to make sure we are on top of the latest data. And we have a bunch of ML model metrics, quality metrics that we actively track, right? One could be accuracies. If for some reason the accuracy drops, the quality of input data, the quality validation post the training, or even is it being trained and often enough. So there are a bunch of quality metrics that are all our ML models are held against, including SLAs, and any drop there, our engineering team gets notified and alerted saying there seems to be a drop here. So go back, maybe even turn off the model and fix it before you start consuming it in your systems.
So that's quite an extensive exercise, I must say, to actually remove biases.
Yeah. In fact, true. You're right. So, in fact, that there is this notion that when somebody builds a model, 60 to 70% of the time is spent just looking at the data, right? Because that is the key. And this the standard saying there's garbage in, there's garbage out, right? So you make sure your data is clean before you give that to your model.
Thank you so much for sharing that perspective, Pallavi. It was wonderful chatting with you on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Varun. Nice being here.